We begin today's wrestling news and rumors video with some interesting news regarding former WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio, who, as some of you may be aware, is now free from the legal issues that he had been dealing with recently, and is now setting his sights on a return to wrestling. For those of you unaware, Alberto Del Rio was recently a guest on Sportskeeda's unscripted podcast show, and during the interview, Del Rio talked about his potential dream WrestleMania match. And by all means, Alberto's response to this question caught the eyes of the entire wrestling community. Here's Alberto Del Rio's message. I know it's impossible for this to happen. You know we're just throwing stuff out there. It will be a triple threat between CM Punk, John Cena, and Alberto Del Rio, competing to unify the AEW Championship and the WWE Championship. Now this was quite an interesting concept that Alberto Del Rio put out there as a potential WrestleMania match, because in reality, the chances of AEW and WWE working together to cross-promote a match involving the AEW and WWE championships is certainly slim to none. So this is truly the definition of a dream match to the fullest extent, and not really the kind of dream match that could actually happen in theory. After this started to go around, some fans voiced their opinions that they feel not only is Alberto Del Rio quite delusional, but that neither WWE or AEW would really want to be working with Alberto Del Rio because of all of his legal troubles and reputation. But who knows, wrestling can be unpredictable, and an Alberto Del Rio return to a major promotion is not totally out of the question, although a bit unlikely if we're being honest here. We now have some huge news regarding former NXT UK Women's Champion Toni Storm, because as some of you have likely heard by now, Toni Storm was shockingly released from her WWE contract earlier today, as reported by Fightful's Sean Sapp. A lot of fans are not surprisingly wondering why WWE decided to release Toni Storm out of the blue, as she was definitely an incredible talented women's division wrestler, and she could have added so much to the WWE. The consensus right now behind the scenes is that Toni Storm had requested and asked for a release from WWE, although this rumor has not been proven to be true yet, so it's just speculation at this point, although there is no doubt that more details will be revealed regarding Toni Storm's release in the coming days for sure. While the reasons for Toni Storm's release are still quite unclear, this is a pretty big loss for the WWE's women's division, because Toni had just been called up to the main roster on Friday Night SmackDown fairly recently, and she was just beginning a storyline with the current SmackDown Women's Champion Charlotte Flair. All in all, Toni Storm's release comes as a shock to many fans, especially given her current storyline with Charlotte Flair on the blue brand. And not surprisingly, a lot of fans on social media feel as though this was a big mistake of letting such a talent like Toni Storm walk away. Whether WWE decided to release Toni Storm, or Toni requested her own release and was granted it by WWE, the overall sentiment from fans regardless of what exactly happened is that this was a huge mistake, as Toni Storm had way too much potential to be let go like that, for the competition AEW to soon acquire. Now we will just say that this is our own personal opinion right now, but with the information currently out there regarding Toni Storm's departure from WWE, it is really likely that Toni Storm was the one who started the process and asked for her own release, because it would not be hard to understand why Toni would be so unhappy in WWE on the main roster recently, given her storyline with Charlotte Flair on SmackDown, which many fans felt was getting off to a pretty bad start when it comes to Toni Storm, and that she was being booked to look pretty bad against Flair, which definitely did not please Storm much whatsoever, especially considering this is her first major program on the main roster of WWE, so this likely sent a message to Toni Storm right away that her future in WWE was relatively bleak if she was to continue on with the company, because if WWE are going to book a fresh new addition to the main roster on SmackDown the way they did with their pretty awful Charlotte Flair storyline, that's far from being a good sign when it comes to Toni Storm's overall future in the company. So asking for her release from WWE was pretty justified in all honesty if that is the case, which it seems to be at this point. Overall, this is just a really sad situation, and WWE lost out on a superstar who could have been a legitimate top women's division wrestler for many years to come. And considering it's not as if the women's division in WWE is loaded with tons of credible and top tier stars right now, Toni Storm was such an important addition to SmackDown's women's division. And now she's gone from the company before she even really started. Although again, with the way it seemed like WWE were going to be booking Toni, she likely made the right choice to ask for her release. With all of that being said, Toni Storm would be an amazing addition to the AEW women's division, and there's no doubt that All Elite Wrestling will be expressing interest in Toni Storm shortly. So while many fans are seemingly in agreement that this was a huge loss for WWE, Toni Storm will be such an awesome addition to the All Elite Wrestling roster, or wherever she chooses to go once she's able to join another company. Let us know your thoughts on Toni Storm's sudden release from WWE earlier today, and do you believe that Toni asked for her own release and was granted it by WWE, or do you feel like WWE just decided to release Toni Storm out of nowhere? Let us know. We now have some big news regarding former Universal Champion Bill Goldberg. For those of you unaware, Goldberg was recently a guest on the Pat McAfee show, and among the topics discussed, Goldberg talked a bit about his wrestling career, but later talked about a major surgery that he needs to get done very soon. Goldberg stated that he is needing a shoulder surgery very soon, but will wait until his WWE career is over before he gets it. But considering this is something very major, Goldberg's career in WWE is definitely coming to an end very soon, so that Goldberg can get this treated. Here's Goldberg's comments about his shoulder sadly needing surgery. I won't tell everybody on national radio or television that my shoulder has been destroyed for the last 3 years, 5 years, 8 years. I need surgery, but I'll get it when I'm done. I'll get it when I'm finished. It's one of those things. Here's the deal. If Vince calls me tomorrow morning and says, "Hey Goldberg, we need you in a month," what am I going to do if I get surgery, right? I'll get her done when it's time. While Goldberg made it clear that he is going to be putting his shoulder surgery off until he retires from WWE, as expected with an injury like this and given Goldberg's age, a retirement from WWE is likely very imminent, and there's no doubt that 2022 is quite possibly going to be Goldberg's final year in WWE, and not even that, likely the first half of 2022 is when Goldberg would probably retire after having one last match. Now on social media, some fans claim that Goldberg should not put off his surgery any longer and that a retirement should occur right now, and that Bill has nothing left to prove in WWE and should walk away, whereas others feel Goldberg should stick to his plan and get the surgery done when he retires in the near future, after having 1 or 2 more matches in WWE. Let us know if you feel Goldberg should retire right now and get his much needed surgery, or wait a bit instead until he wrestles at least one more time in WWE. Now, as most of you are likely aware, the big match at Day 1 that most fans are looking forward to is the Universal Championship match between Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, and according to one of our sources, Dave Meltzer, Day 1 is a crucial step in the storyline between Reigns and Lesnar going into WrestleMania 38. Here's Dave's comment about that. Was essentially told that it was very, very important for WrestleMania that Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, and Paul Heyman do not miss the show, so obviously there's something big going on there. Clearly Paul Heyman is going to be at Day 1, but as far as who he is going to be helping remains a mystery, further adding to the appeal of this major championship match.